Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Last Wrestling Podcast, because if I have a wrestling podcast, everybody else in the world does too, and the concept is officially dead. As you may or may not be aware, I am a random person on the internet who likes professional wrestling, and therefore I am immensely qualified to give my commentary on any and all things related, even tangentially, to professional wrestling, whether or not I have any idea what the heck I'm talking about. That's right, this is going to be the first of a hopefully irregular series that I'm liking to call Random Wrestling Reactions. Hi, Brian Zane, how you doing? This, ladies and gentlemen, is where I'm going to be talking about anything and everything pro wrestling related that isn't really big enough or long enough to have its own show, to have its own video, but I still want to opine. And this is going to be completely script-free, so get ready for some rambling nonsense, ladies and gentlemen. I believe that's where I'm supposed to say yee-haw. Alright, first topic we're going to talk about tonight, topic 1 of 5, is Vince is pushing his luck. Now, Vince McMahon has been, what's the polite way to say it, exploiting his talent and the law for 40 plus years, roughly. And he may have recently gone overboard during this pandemic situation. Yes, and yes, for those of you outside of the United States, they haven't gotten any better. Okay, first of all, he manages to get... Actually, no, first of all, he tells his talent, oh, don't worry, there won't be any penalty to anyone who chooses not to work during the pandemic because they have, elderly family members or they have compromised immune systems. Don't worry, no, we're not going to penalize you. Bullpucky. Complete and utter nonsense. Roman Reigns doesn't get mentioned for like 6 months until he's ready to come back to work. Sami Zayn gets stripped of a title that he shouldn't have lost. And a whole bunch of people just vanish. Vince was lying. And you gotta know there was a bunch of peer pressure to show up and come to work, even if you're sick. In a slightly less legal moment, Vince also bribes Florida government officials to get wrestling declared an essential service during the pandemic, when guess what? It really, really isn't. So, huge mistake there. That's going to come back to bite him at some point. But as far as the talent relations go, he may have finally overdone it with Twitch. Now, during the pandemic, the way the WWE pay structure goes, you've got what's called your downside guarantee. You will make at least that much money. However, if your allotment of merchandise sales, appearance fees, ticket sales, whatever metric they're using for pay-per-view bonuses, if they're even doing that anymore, if that all adds up to more than your downside, you will get that higher number. Now, a lot of wrestlers recently have been using the internet. They've been using Twitch, they've been using Cameo, and probably some other things I'm not entirely aware of, to communicate directly with the fans and do essentially a crowdsourcing thing for that on Twitch, or charging for personalized messages on Cameo and pocketing the money. Some wrestlers have made significant cash. We're talking 5 figures in US dollars for this kind of service. And good for them. Now, of course, wrestlers are independent contractors, so anything they choose to do outside of WWE, they're allowed to do, and WWE really can't say anything about it, except... No. Well, Vince has decided that, hey, we are your platform, we're the reason you're famous, so all that money you're making on Twitch, you gotta give to us. We'll put it against your downside guarantee, and if you make more, you make more, but you gotta give us all the monies. Give us the monies, we want the monies. Oh yes, we're the genetic jackhammers making all the money. I do a terrible Vince McMahon impression. Well, it turns out that pisses people off, because some of these people, they didn't make their names in WWE. Oh, by the way, even on YouTube, this is a thing. By the way, if you're not subscribed to Kana TV or Kana-chan TV, Asuka's network, Asuka's YouTube channel, you really should. She's amazing. The fans are pissed, and I've heard the word union tossed around. So, yeah, Vince might have bitten off more than he can chew. The fact that wrestlers aren't unionized is, one, a crime, and two, and I mean that in a proverbial sense, and quite possibly in a literal sense as well, and it's also just a shame. They really should be. They've been exploited by their employers for generations. This is getting nuts. But it also feeds into the longest standing, I can't believe he gets away with this, illegality of the way Vince McMahon works, independent contractor status. Wrestlers used to be independent contractors. A plumber is an independent contractor. You hire a plumber to work at your house, you can't tell them, by the way, you're not allowed to work anywhere else on this street, you belong to me. No, you're not employing me, you are temporarily hiring my services on an agreed upon date, for an agreed upon time, for an agreed upon job. That's how wrestling works too. However, at least it did. You would come into a territory, you'd shake hands with the promoter, and they say, okay, I need you for this show through this show. Here are the dates. Here's what you're going to get paid. Do we have a deal? Yes, no, shake hands, flip off, whatever. With Vince, with WWE contracts, and a few WWE contracts have leaked to the internet over the years, so we do actually know what these things look like. No, these people are not independent contractors. They are employees. They're just not being given the benefits of employees, including, oh, I don't know, health insurance! Wrestlers have to pay their own health care. And considering how dangerous the job is when you're deliberately throwing yourself at the floor multiple times a day, nobody's going to give you insurance. Pre-Obamacare, there are a lot of wrestlers who, thanks to the American Health Care Act, they've got health insurance for the first time in their professional lives. So, now, whether or not wrestlers should be members of SAG specifically or not, I think, or some sort of stuntmen's guild, or an original professional sports union, I don't know. That's for people with actual law degrees. But yeah, Vince has been pushing that, and he's made the biggest mistake a con man can make. The grifter's error. He's gotten attention. He's gotten too big, too loud, and now we finally got people paying attention. Specifically, Andrew Yang, a failed presidential candidate on the Democratic side, famous for his, I'd say, very pro-labor stance of a UBI, Universal Basic Income, the idea that everybody gets a salary from the government as a citizenship right. But while I didn't agree with exactly how he was going to pay for it, it's still a really good idea, and he has a good, and I say well-earned reputation as being pro-labor. And he's made noise recently about WWE essentially scamming all their wrestlers, which they totally do. So Vince may or may not have gone overboard with that, and that could come back to bite him in the ass for millions of dollars. And he's at least an on-paper billionaire about half the year, depending on how the stock's doing. So he doesn't have the we're a mom-and-pop wrestling organization BS that you could certainly argue the WWF and, Jim Crockett Promotions or, whoever was promoting out of, Podunk, New Jersey, would have had in the old days. Vince cannot make that argument. He is completely legally in the wrong here. He's in trouble. Will anything come from this, or will people just shrug their shoulders and say, hey, it's wrestling, it's carny trash anyway, who cares? No idea. I certainly hope not. Stay tuned. Random Wrestling Reaction number 2. G1 Climax Sati, Bees of One. Which, actually, that's kind of a cool catchphrase for G1 Climax, because you want to be the one winner. You want to be the one with the briefcase. Fair enough. How I have been watching this. I've been watching the English commentary, because G1, even at its best, G1 is a background show. It's a show that I have on in the background while I'm working on something else, including usually editing videos like this. As of this recording, I've seen up through night 14. I am watching the entire run of the tournament. A couple of notes that I just have, random thoughts so far. One, I love the tagless format. It is fantastic. We've got every show is 6 matches. a Young Lions opener and 5 matches within the block, and it is absolutely fantastic. I love this. New Japan has had a big problem for many years of having a whole bunch of matches that do not mean anything. And the tournament shows, whether it be G1 Climax, Best of the Super Juniors, the problem is that they tend to have the block that's not competing in tournament matches. Let's throw all 10 of you into a couple of random 6-man trios, 8-man Atomicos, 10-man tags, whatever, with a whole block in a 10-man tag. No, it never works. I always fast forward through those. I always skip those because they don't bloody matter. Skip. Okay, A block, here we go. So you've got these usually 2 to 2.5 hour shows, somewhere in that range, and all but the first 10 minutes and the interval in the intermission, it's actual wrestling that actually counts and actually matters. Brilliant. Please keep this format. Now, going through the 20 competitors, just very random thoughts on each one. A block, we've got Kota Ibushi. I'm predicting him to either win or be in the final. Jeff Cobb, he's going to look really strong, really powerful. He's going to have a better future with New Japan than he would with AEW at this point. And while I will always regret the downgrade to Jeff Cobb from his previous identity, I like this guy. I support him. I want to see him do well. And fortunately, they're not going to follow the Shingo Takagi rule and make him a junior heavyweight. That's good. Okada. Oh, God, what the hell do you do with Okada going into the Wrestle Kingdom they haven't technically announced yet? Maybe he just falls short on a tiebreaker. I don't know. We've got the Stone Pitbull, Tomohiro Ishii, and he's in the bracket. Will Ospreay, while I've enjoyed his obvious enthusiasm at being back in the ring, back in Japan, back on the cerulean blue, one thing I'm really starting to dislike about his character is that they keep portraying him as mini Okada. And he's not. Frankly, he has the potential to be even better than Okada, blasphemy though that is, and in terms of sheer skill level, yeah, he does kind of remind me of a younger Okada. Okay, fine. But mini other guy never works. The worst point of AJ Styles' career was when he was mini Ric Flair. It did not work. And I would call that even worse than when he and Shinsuke Nakamura were in the Dick Kick feud. That was bad. It wasn't a complete waste of time. Shingo Takagi, they are keeping this guy really, really strong, even though he's not going to win the block. He's one of those guys that I think is maybe 3 to 4 years from now, and given his age, that might be stretching it. He's going to be in the top 4. He's going to be in the big 4 of New Japan. It's just going to take a little bit of time for some of the slots to open up, and I think he... Honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if at some point he breaks off and forms his own faction. I would kind of like to see that. Maybe an amicable split from Los Ingobernables de Japón, and he forms the Dragons Guild or something like that. I don't know. Something with dragons in it because dragons are cool and dragon merchandise sells well. Suzuki Minoru. I'm scared of him, and now he's pissed off, so I'm even scareder of him. I like that they're kind of playing him as the old lion at this point, who's trying to fend off the challenger from the next guy we're going to talk about, Taichi. Yeah, Taichi beat Suzuki in a G1 tournament match, and does it become Taichi-gun? Taichi-gun would be a joke. They're trying to rehab Taichi into a serious threat, and I see what they're doing, but I'm sorry, he's got to get rid of at least 90%, well, maybe not 90, at least 60% of the gimmicks he's got. He's got to get rid of the lip-syncing. He's got to get rid of the Castlevania shtick. He's already gotten rid of the girl, unfortunately, and she was one of the most entertaining parts of the act. And you just need to strip away a bit more and find a better character for Taichi before he's going to be a thing. Jay White. Again, trying to keep somebody strong in a tournament where he can't win too much. Maintaining the ghetto cheating style that really makes Jay White look incredibly weak and not particularly professional. So Jay White, under his current character with the Gedo blatant interference routine, there's a ceiling for that. As long as he's unique among the top of New Japan or the top of the mid-card, bottom of the main event scene, he can work. It's just, I don't know how far this character can go. And then we have designated loser, as in, again, I've only seen through night 14, has yet to earn a single point, the Tokyo Pimpsu, Yujiro Takahashi. And someone's got to do it. Someone's got to lose, so you free up victories to hand out to people who need them. Yeah, let's just say there's a reason it's its first G1 in 5 years. Moving over to the B block, and people have been saying the B block isn't as stacked as the A block. I completely disagree with that. Starting off with the ace, Tanahashi. They told a great story, at least on the English commentary, of the first match, which was Tanahashi versus Naito, with Tanahashi thinking, I don't have the endurance to go through the whole G1 and win this whole thing, but if I beat Naito on night 1, that earns me a title shot. If I can beat Naito again, that gets me back to the main event of Wrestle Kingdom one way or the other. That did not wind up happening. So, Tanahashi, they need to find somewhere to go with this character. He's been doing the aging star, aging rock star, whose knees are shot, and he's, how long does he have left? Can he keep it going? He looks fantastic, but he's injured. They've been doing that for like 4 years now. At least 3-4 years. So either find somewhere to go with Tanahashi, get a long-term, if you're going to do a retirement story a la Liger, that's fine. Figure out where you're going with this. And if you need to book it a year long or a year ahead, do so. Or, the knees are the weakness, fine, keep the knees are a weakness, but lay off he's, one bad bump away from shattering into a million pieces. The character is stagnant right now. Moving across the picture here, we've got the flamboyant Juice Robinson filling out the bracket. Good to see him here. He's not going to win. Goto. Never count out Goto in a G1. But Goto, again, he's going to be a filler. He's going to be one of the last guys eliminated, I think. Toru Yano. I skip every one of his matches except for the finish, because occasionally it's interesting to see what creative stuff he will come up with his duct tape, but honestly, I'm really tired of this guy's shtick. Yoshihashi, the headhunter in the neck brace. Still, I hate that collar. It looks ridiculous. You do not look like Son Goku, Suwonku, the Monkey King, in that outfit. Another rehab project since the return from the pandemic. They gave him his first ever title, the 6-man tag titles, the never openweight 6-man title. And they've been trying, and the story has been, he's showing aggression, he's showing confidence, he's finally over himself, he's out of his own head, and he's still losing all the time. Naito. I think there's a non-zero chance Naito wins the whole damn thing and becomes the first champion in decade plus to hold the briefcase, to win the briefcase, and I believe that gives him I'm not sure about this, I believe that gives him the right to choose his own challenger at Wrestle Kingdom. I think at that point, you gotta go with Evil, and have some kind of a finality to that, because Evil beat Naito for the belts, Naito beat Evil for the belts, rubber match at the Dome, it writes itself. And I think he beats Kota Ibushi in the final. And yes, every time Naito and Ibushi are in the ring together, there's a very good chance both of them are going to kill each other. But I think you slap them around a bit backstage and tell them not to be that stupid. But I think there's a very good chance that could be a hell of a main event for a G1 final. And yeah, that's my pick. If I have to make an actual prediction, I think Naito beats Ibushi in the final and goes on to face his chosen challenger Evil at the Dome. Next, we've got Sanada. Again, trying to rehab, keep strong, but nowhere to go with this character. Will Ospreay. Ditto. Kenta. Wow, Kenta's lost a lot of steam since Wrestle Kingdom early this year, hasn't he? Really, it was only in January. But seriously, I was in the Dome for that, and I wanted to see that man dead. It was amazing. I'm surprised he got out of the building alive. He's got the thing where he's got a title match, ostensibly with Jon Moxley for the U.S. title, for the IWGP U.S. title. Whether or not that's actually going to happen, I don't know. There's been a change of management in New Japan that makes things a little more likely that there will at least be cracks in the Forbidden Door. So do I think he's going to be the U.S. champion? Yeah, probably. If that match actually does happen, I think they're going to take it off of Moxley and put it on one of their own guys. And lastly, Evil. I have no idea where he goes in the tournament. I just know he doesn't win the damn thing. But that's... yeah, so once again, prediction is the block winners, I think, are going to be Ibushi and Naito. Naito will win the final and challenge and demand a match with Evil for the double gold. Or possibly, just a possibility, it could be that the briefcase gives you a match for the IWGP Heavyweight title, not necessarily the Intercontinental title. Naito has said he wants to defend these titles separately. He doesn't want to always have to defend both belts. He wants to take the double burden of being a double champion. Now, I don't think that's a good idea, especially if you're going to reintroduce the US title on Kenta, but because New Japan does have a too many belts problem, and they've actually done a really good job fixing that, essentially taking the U.S. title out of commission, combining the heavyweight and intercontinental titles. They've really fixed that problem, at least to a certain degree. So, I don't know. Don't know where we're going with this. But yeah, Naito wins I predict Naito to win the G1 Climax. Watch me be wrong. Next random wrestling reaction. We're actually going to be talking about the future of New Japan Pro Wrestling. And I did talk a little bit about this in my G1 talk. They have announced double tournaments. They're going to be combining Best of the Super Juniors and the tag tournament, Super Tag League, together in a double show with the finale at Nippon Budokan. And I'm going to try to get to that. I've never seen a wrestling show at Budokan, and I think I might be, if I can get a ticket with the limited seating, I'm going to try and attend that. It'll, of course, be the cheap seats because, hi. But I would like to see that. So those are tournaments I will be following as we get closer to December. And speaking of December, January. Will there be a January 4th show this year? They have not announced that. And we're at the point the silence speaks volumes here. So right now, we don't know if there's going to be an Each Tenyon 1.4, a January 4th show at all. We don't know if it'll be called Wrestle Kingdom, and we certainly don't know where it's going to be. There's a very good chance they won't be able to get the Tokyo Dome, or they won't be able to get enough seats in the Dome that they can actually make it profitable to do the show. So if there is a Wrestle Kingdom this year, I expect it to be really scaled back. It's not going to be, especially not the two-night thing, it's not going to be as big as it usually is, but I think there's so much value in January 4th, there's so much value in the name Wrestle Kingdom, and that even if it isn't in the Dome, if they can find somewhere of equivalent size, they could maybe do it at Sumo Hall. They could probably do it at Budokan and get away with it. They could maybe go back to Jingu Stadium or some other outdoor baseball field. I don't know if they can't get the Dome. I don't think you can do it at Korakuen. I don't think you can do it at Korakuen Hall. I think that's too small. It's an important venue. It's too small of a venue. Same reason WrestleMania doesn't run at Madison Square Garden anymore. It's too small. So I don't know what January 4th looks like. The other question right now with New Japan, do they have the staff? A theme that I noticed throughout the G1, or at least so far, is rehabbing mid-card characters and trying to shore up, to scaffold bottom card characters like a Taichi, like a Yoshihashi, like even a Juice Robinson, trying to sort of build them up, even though they're going to have to lose a lot. And right now the question is, do they have the staff? It's becoming more possible to get foreign talent into Japan. Obviously Cobb and Ospreay are back, but we're still losing a lot of people. And I don't know right now if they've got the talent they need at the level they need them to be New Japan Pro Wrestling in the future. Random Wrestling Reaction number 4 for this episode. Ring of Honor. We're going to talk about them for a while. Now, I am aware of Ring of Honor. I know things about Ring of Honor. I have never regularly watched Ring of Honor, though I respect a great deal of the talent that's gone through that promotion. However, when they announced they were going to be doing this Pure Tournament, bringing back the Pure title, I decided to check that out, and I've enjoyed it so far. First of all, I got to rediscover a few Chikara wrestlers, now wrestling without their masks under different face-bearing identities, and it was kind of cool seeing old friends, if you will. I'm loving the presentation of the show, that we're getting these long video packages telling us who these characters are, why they're fighting, what their motivations are, what their histories are, etc. And then we're having really only a couple of matches, but there's so much focus on what's going on in those matches that it doesn't feel like they're ever really killing time. And I do enjoy the Pure format. I like the stats. I like the sports-like atmosphere of it, to use a cliche. I like the rope break rules. I like the idea that it's not full-on World of Sport style, but it's about as close as the Americans are ever going to get. And I really think this is a good thing for them to be doing. But am I going to follow Ring of Honor full-time after this? Probably not. Last and least, Random Wrestling Reaction number 5. What's good in WWE these days? 1. Roman Reigns is a heel now, and I'm actually really enjoying this whole tribal chief thing. I like the idea of the pretender to the throne, because as I understand it, and granted this is mostly Wikipedia telling me this, so I'm probably wrong, being a chief in Samoan culture is not just a matter of genetics or being the firstborn. It's something that you have to earn by merit. And so far, Roman Reigns really, really hasn't. So I like the idea that he's this sort of false, this sort of, the Joffrey without the legitimacy. And not that Joffrey had legitimacy. Okay, bad example. But I do like what they're doing with that. 2. Fiendish Alexa Bliss. Bray Wyatt has been a cult leader without a cult for far too long, and he's needed a female minion. He's needed either a reincarnation of Sister Abigail, or someone possessed by Sister Abigail, or something like that to really up the creep factor. And I think Alexa Bliss is a wonderful choice for that. She's got what it takes to play that kind of a role. Number 3, nothing. Nothing else is good in WWE. The draft was a joke. They broke up the New Day. That's a dumb idea. And, yeah, sorry, you still suck, Vince. Bye-bye. This has been Random Wrestling Reactions, and thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Next Last Wrestling Podcast should be the next AEW pay-per-view Full Gear, or probably the G1 Final. I'm probably going to do both of those as live-ish reviews. Thanks for watching. Catchphrase sign off.